Hey YouTube, welcome to City Prepping. In this video, I'll take you through the process of setting up your own do-it-yourself PVC drip irrigation system. I'll show you step by step how I set these up in the bed. I'll show you how I ran water lines from the storage tank to the actual beds. And I'll explain how I set up my water storage, my pump, my power source, and the timer to automate this whole process. So stick around.
I've been working on installing gardens on my property for the last few months, and obviously I needed to get an irrigation system built in to water the garden. So in this video we'll cover the things that you'll need in order to irrigate your garden, and we'll start out with the basic items that you'll want to pick up first. To begin with, you'll obviously need pipes, PVC, Schedule 40. I just honestly went with the cheapest pipes I could find. Again, this is not a high pressure setup, so I went with something that was pretty simple. You're going to need glue and primer. Again, you can pick these up at your local hardware department store, something like Lowe's or Home Depot. You'll need 3/4 ball valves with slip ends on both. You can use obviously a screw in if you want on one of the ends, but I just went with a slip. You want slip-on end caps. You'll need T-joints, and again, everything I'm using is 3/4 slip. You'll notice that on all the different items I show here. You're going to want 90-degree slip elbows. You'll also need 3/4 PVC couplers to allow you to tie different pipes together. Now, as far as the tools you're going to need, I used a 1/16-inch drill bit, a drill, and a saw or a PVC cutter will work just fine. So to begin with, to set up the drip lines in your bed, what you want to do is start off by setting up the ball valves in front of the row you want to irrigate. And just a quick tip, I made the mistake of planting the seeds and trying to install the system a couple of weeks later. The problem that I encountered very quickly was I couldn't remember exactly where the seeds were, and I didn't want to put the PVC pipes on top of the places where I planted the seeds. So be sure to either first install your PVC lines and then add the seeds, or mark where you planted your seeds so you know where you're going to put your lines at. Now, the reason I used these ball valves at the beginning of each line is that I'm able to control the pressure that comes out on each line. Some things I wanted more water and some things I wanted less. And with these ball valves, it gives you complete control and flexibility over each line. One thing to point out is that you don't want to glue these PVC lines into the ball valve. And the reason being is because in the future, when you switch out these lines, when you're putting in different types of vegetables and you're going to be drilling in different places, you want to be able to easily remove those without having to completely get rid of your ball valves in the process. So once you've got the line laid down by your vegetables, the next step is just simply go through and mark off on the line where you're going to drill. I just simply put the PVC line that I just marked on the edge of my garden bed. Obviously, you can do this on a table or any kind of flat surface. I didn't show this in the video, but in my previous time that I was setting all these up, I taped both ends to the raised garden bed so that it wouldn't move, the line wouldn't move, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Once you've gone ahead and drilled these 1/16-inch holes in the lines, go ahead and put the end cap on. And one thing I didn't point out is that you're going to want to let that dry for about 24 hours. In the video you see here that I put the line straight back in. Actually, you want it to sit for about 24 hours, obviously, to let the glue settle in. Once you have the end cap installed and it's been able to sit for about 24 hours, go ahead and just firmly press it into the ball valve with the holes pointed toward the plants. You can either point the holes up or down into the ground. I just prefer to point it up so it doesn't push holes into the ground whenever the water pressure comes out. And as you can see, it effectively irrigates the plants. Now, it's up to you how many holes you want to put and where you want to place them. There is a great degree of flexibility, which is one of the reasons I love working with PVC, is you can go back and make modifications to it later. I've got all kind of different configurations, as you can see here, some for my strawberries, some for different bean and peas. So as far as deciding where you want to put your PVC pipes, just go ahead and mark it out and then dig up the holes in the ground. I only went down maybe a few inches. I don't really get a lot of frost here, so I don't have to worry about going too deep. One of the mistakes I made early on is using pickaxes, and I was lucky to have a subscriber let me borrow one of his jackhammers to make the job a whole lot easier. So once you've got the trenches dug out, you can begin to put in your lines. And again, one of the reasons I love working with PVC is it's super flexible. Again, this is not a precision type of setup. You just kind of eyeball everything. Just set the lines where you feel like things are going to line up pretty well. Having the right primer and glue comes in handy to set up your lines, obviously, and you can pick up all these things at your local hardware store. Again, be sure to let the lines sit for about 24 hours after you glue them together to make sure they have time to firm up. So as far as my setup for my water storage, my electricity and pump, I'm using a solar setup. I've got 300 watts of solar panels set up. I could probably go down to 100 watts if I wanted to. And I'm using my Energy Kodiak. I'll put a link in the description section below if you want to check that out. It's a simple all-in-one inverter, storage, controller, the whole 9 yards, and it's great for just a quick setup if you want to have a solar configuration set up. Now, as far as a pump, I went down to my local Tractor Supply and bought a 1/2 horsepower pump. I think it's a bit overkill. I could probably get away with a much smaller pump, but I'm going to be adding a lot of lines on in the future. And my water storage is a 2,500 gallon tank. I did a video, I'll post a link in the cards up above if you want to see that particular setup. I will be installing a rain harvesting system this fall to actually harvest water. As far as the automation goes, what I did is I bought a little simple timer that I put on the front of my Energy Kodiak, and it controls when the pump will actually come on. What I did is I bought a small little Rainbird water controller at my local Home Depot. And I have this open up about 2 minutes before the battery kicks on and begins to power the pump.
There you have it. Hopefully this video gives you a lot of ideas on how to go about setting up your own PVC drip irrigation system. I'll link in the cards up above to the video that I originally used when I began to study this. I found it to be very helpful, and you might get some additional tips or learn additional information if you watch that video. Again, I'll link that in the cards up above. If you have any feedback or anything that you say, hey, you could have done this better or you could have done it differently, post those comments in the comment section below. In the next couple of months, I'm going to be adding about 4 or 5 more beds next to these beds that I already have set up. And when I do so, I'll repeat the process of setting up this PVC drip irrigation system. And so before I do that, if you have any feedback or ways to improve it, I'll take your feedback from the community and I'll use that on the next set of beds that I set up. Again, I'm a learner. I always enjoy getting feedback from the community, so please post that information down below. If you enjoyed the video, click on the like button, share on social media, and as always, be safe out there.